Well, it's time to catch up with Superman&Lois. So, you catch up with some of the other characters, see how they're doing, and Kyle and Chrissy and all that stuff. And Chrissy realizing she might have to sell off her share of the Gazette and so on. And, oh boy, that's going to create a problem. Well, don't worry, they resolve it. But the main thing is Clark has got to, one more time, try to convince people that he's not Superman. And ultimately realizes, yeah, that's not going to work out. So he decides to go public. But we do get some flashbacks to the early days of him and Lois at Daily Planet, and we meet their version of Jimmy Olsen. And, not the same Jimmy Olsen from the Supergirl show. So it basically is that Clark always regretted, although he believed it was for the best to keep his identity secret, he felt bad about lying to friends about it, and he did the same to Jimmy, because Jimmy begins to suspect that he's Clark, but he kept it secret and whatnot. And it created this belief that he said, I thought we were friends, but you're never around, and this type of thing, and I was busy being Superman, all of that. And ultimately, once all this is done, he goes public, he catches up with Jimmy, and Jimmy's like, I get the deal, and everything's fine. But they, it's an interesting thing of when they do this, because this iteration of Superman is, of course, his later years after he and Lois married, kids, all that. And so you get some nods to the more classic setting of Superman. Back in that bygone era we now commonly refer to as the day. Well, it does have a very serious moment in it, and with the overall thing happening since Superman came back from the dead, is that he's having troubles. His powers are kind of failing him here and there, and ultimately he's confronted by the rotten, nasty father of Jonathan's girlfriend, and he pulls a gun on Clark, saying he's going to prove to everybody that he is Superman. And in that moment, Clark just decides, okay, I'm just going to reveal it. So within the blink of an eye, he changes into his Superman suit. The guy fires, and the bullet bounces off his chest. But I got to admit, at the moment, I thought, the guy's going to fire the gun, and Clark thinks it's not going to, because he's getting up and he's in front of everybody and all that type of thing. But before I saw he changes into the costume, but I thought that the bullet would actually penetrate, and he'd end up in the hospital, and everybody, oh man, and then that would certainly convince everybody that he was not Superman. But at the same time, it's the revelation of, he's losing all his powers and all that sort of thing. But they didn't do that, even though, yes, that is the ongoing plot here, that after he resurrected with Sam Lane's heart, it's basically, the theory goes that it's kind of overriding his DNA, I would assume, because the thing is like, well, it's an older heart, and it's not functioning at the level of your previous one, and it's functioning at the level of a 68-year-old man or whatever that age Sam had. It doesn't quite line up with all that Kryptonian blood coursing through it. Now, an aging heart, yes, that would create problems over time for him. But I would have thought it would have the opposite effect, that it would actually kind of rejuvenate it to a point. And I don't think it maybe weaken his powers, but the idea is that eventually he won't have any as time goes by. Yeah, not really. I mean, maybe they would weaken and they wouldn't be as like he was before. But I think he would keep most of his powers intact as he went. But again, this is like the later years of Superman's life with Lois and everything, and the boys are growing up into their own, and they'll be the Supermen going forward, and that's kind of what it is. Did he have to lose his powers for that? No, but that's where they're going with it. But at the same time, I don't think that would really explain it. But he's got his powers for the moment as the show comes to an end with his final confrontation with Lex Luthor. So in the next episode, that's what they deal with. Luthor, at the behest of his girlfriend's idea, is to challenge Lois Lane to a debate because he wants to ruin her reputation as a reporter and all this sort of stuff. And they meet on this guy's sort of, trash journalist show, Gordon Godfrey. And that's a nod to the Jack Kirby New Gods character, who was actually one of the New Gods, a Glorious Godfrey, who was, very charismatic and could subdue people with his BS. But in this, there's no indication that they're saying that that's who this guy is or anything like that. It's just sort of thrown in for the moment. I mean, there's only 2 episodes left, so were they going to introduce New Gods had the series been picked up for further? I doubted that. New Gods would be very expensive, at least in total. Maybe 1 or 2 showing up causing problems and Superman solves it and then they move on, but beyond that, no. But the other interesting aspect is who plays Gordon Godfrey. Well, it's Tom Cavanaugh, because he was rumored, it leaked that he would be in the show, and people thought, oh wow, Reverse Flash is going to show up. But no, he's a totally different character. And it's important to remember this is not the main CW Arrowverse or what have you. It's its own thing. So it's just a recognizable face thrown in, even though within the Flash show they revealed there were multiple versions of the same guy, but none of them were a New God. So it's just for the hell of it, but anyway, they had the show. Meanwhile, there's a plot afoot to steal Steel's suit. So as in this version, Luthor, who of course has a suit of armor in the comic books and everything, is going to adapt Steel's suit so he can finally take on Superman and destroy him. And so it works. They hack it. There's all kind of trouble. So you get some action here where Superman's got to go to save Steel from his own suit and all that. And then his daughter's suit freaks out, but the boys are able to take that suit down and destroy it before it does any more damage and all that sort of thing. But Luthor is successful through the help of his hacker Milton, who for a brief moment I thought was a nod to the Superman villain Toyman. And there's been 3 different guys. The current one is, I think, this Japanese guy, but he's a superhero. He's a Superman fan, and he uses the toys for good. Whereas the original Toyman, of course, is the villain and all that. But no, there's no nod to it. The Toyman's name was never Milton. Well, this is an alias. Maybe they could have, again, were the series following on, maybe they would pursue that with this guy. I just don't know. It seems like at the last, since the show's over, they could have just thrown in and said his name was, Percival Shot or whatever. But nevertheless, it gets the suit, and that's the sinister end leading into the final episodes of Superman and Lois.